Sleep deprived, unfortunately, today, but I still got a video that I want to make for you all. It's kind of one that's kind of out there. It's along similar lines to the one that I made quite some time ago called "The Shapes of Consciousness," talking about 444 and 555 and things like that. Um, so yeah, it's real abstract, even for my stuff. So I just need to kind of share it on principle because I'm really proud of it and I kind of nailed this win that I want to share. So, um, the title is -1 3355. Okay, so the problem that I am dealing with in this is the one of transbodiment. So it's been quite some time since I've mentioned that word or that concept, but unfortunately that problem and those attempted solutions of mine remain because I've never been able to get one to last once I got it in place. So what they are is sort of scaffoldings set in my body which act as like adapters or kind of guides for growth between my body as it is at the moment and how it ought to be once it's grown into its final state. So the reason that this is so desirable for me is that it would enable me to start off recovery from a physical and mental position that's not crippled by um, long-term withdrawal symptoms, which tend to mimic deep depression for me. So, and today I discovered uh, I just kind of happened upon that the fundamental function of transbodiment is to enable me to use two different two-digit vibrational patterns, which are the 55 and 33 that I mentioned before. And these codes uh, name or delineate patterns of switches between two adjacent charges, um, two at a time. So that's where the dual digit comes from, switching two things at a time. And they describe what two-digit codes like this stand for as far as meaning or function is that they are used to determine one's manner of relating to other people. So sort of like your um, stance or um, sort of the viewpoint that you're taking on uh, in a conversation, and whether you're kind of sharing that viewpoint, whether you're kind of joining with the other person to form some joint structure of meaning, or whether you're kind of more just watching, stuff like that. Um, and my original, uh, the first time I was introduced to codes like this, they were, in the context was basically listing or naming types of love. So that's another way to think of it, but not the one that I'm using in this video. So the problem that all of my transbodiments past have suffered is that when I switch my interpersonal relating from the elevated or full 5-5 down to the 3-3, um, and that means that it's only using 3 out of the 5 charges, which are all used for 5-5. So when I do that, when I switch down to 3-3, the two charges that aren't in use in the 3-3 are contiguous next to each other, and I can never stop them. It never seemed to be able to stop them from spiraling around each other and forming a 2-2, which is really undesirable. That is uh, a code of addiction and in terms of love, it represents a predator-prey relationship. So it's love that's killing, basically. It's not really love. Um, yeah. So once I figured out that these codes were in use, I um, was able to design a full system for the perfect transbodiment, which can't suffer this problem. Um, okay, so, oh shoot, I need my notebook for this, just a second. Okay, so I have two different models. One is much simpler than the other. One's 2D, one's 3D. Um, Same basic principles, but a little different. So starting with the simpler one, um, these are, this is a diagram of the problematic, uh, of the problem, and this is a diagram of the solution. So um, in the problem, you have these three um, charges, active charges, the black, that are linked together, um, each linked to the other, and those can be used to trace out the pattern of 3-3. But you have left these two um, unused charges that are right next to each other and linked. And basically, I realized this was the major breakthrough, really, that um, if you have uh, two unused charges leading or two unused charges lagging at the front or the back, um, they're gonna just entangle and kind of spiral in on each other. Um, and the solution is really cool, connecting them by a star only and not with those other additional lines. So what you have here is um, you have three charges in the middle here, um, forming a, I want to say cohort for some reason, forming a little group there that can do its thing, um, following the pattern of 3-3. But the two unused charges are separated by the charges in use, the active charges. So instead of two leading or two lagging, it's one leading and one lagging. They're not contiguous because there's this motile plane or pattern or dance going on in the middle there, separating them. So so that's the simpler one. The other one is 3D. Have some toothpick things for you. So these are the same 5 charges divided into 3, forming this ring, this triangle in this plane halfway up this post. The post having one on each end, separated effectively by the plane of the other 3. So this was another insight that I was pretty proud of. I thought it was pretty cool that just figuring out how you could separate 5 point charges in a way that, well, just how do you do that in a way that makes sense, given that you can't separate them evenly throughout space, because you would need an additional spatial dimension to do that. You would need to, that would be a pentachoron, which requires 4 dimensions. So Um, so the way this works, wait, let me make sure I didn't miss anything. Okay, so this one, it does, unlike the other one, it kind of only runs 5.5, but in running 5.5, it incorporates a version or a variant of 3.3. So it's kind of like it's running both. Um, okay, so what we have here, not shown in the model, is that there is a source of an electrical field. Hold on, just so there. Hello. Okay, you're there. So what was I saying? So yeah, so underneath here there is a source of electrical charge that um, shoots a narrow focused beam of a field straight up. Um, so it's just one charge displacing the next, and the whole thing ripples out. So you push this one up, that pushes this one up. Um, this takes its place. This one um, falls off to one side or another, and in so falling, it because these charges are of the same, they're the same, charge type. They repel. So as this one falls down, it scoots whichever one it's falling towards, left or right, to take the place of its neighbor, and that neighbor having um, fields on both on top and to the side of it gets pushed down. This isn't really that clear the way I'm holding it. Gets pushed down to be the new bottom charge. So you have this whole kind of churning or convection-like rippling uh, pattern that I'm uh, quite proudly calling 5.5. So the the by analogously to the little paper model, I was thinking the main feature separating the two spare charges, if in with respect to 3.3, was this plane here of the three charges in the triangle. But but I'm I think really the 3.3 is being more effectively traced out between whichever three charges are on this top outward facing triangle that are moving around. So it's really taking place more on the sides than in the plane. Um, Although I'm not 100% on that. Okay, let me again check I didn't leave anything out. So the steady force upward from that charge source at the bottom um, is really more effective than the plane itself at keeping the two charges separate. They can't mingle and spin around each other if they're both being shoved in the same direction like that. Okay, and the last thing is just a note on what I finally figured out to do to create that electrical field from the bottom, which is I envisioned a charged tunnel or kind of cavity or bowl, so that there with a like a fairly narrow mouth down here, so that there's lots of points. There's lots of charged area casting overlapping fields, creating like a plume of charge upward out of it, but relatively little, um, comparatively little charge going out off the sides of it, off the ends of it. So I think that works. I I'd be embarrassed if it didn't. So anyway, uh, we'll see if I'm embarrassed. Okay, thanks, y'all. Bye.